We're selling porcelain, gaining regional influence, and swaying artisans. That's right, it's River of Gold from Office Dog. In this sailing and selling merchant matchup, 2 to 4 players take on the role of one of the illustrious clans from the world of the Legend of the Five Rings, either Crab, Crane, Mantis, or Scorpion clan. Over a series of turns, players will sail along the river, gathering trade goods, constructing new buildings, gaining profits from those buildings, and selling goods to prestigious customers. Many of these actions earn players victory points, and the player with the most victory points at the end of the game wins. Setup begins with the game board placed center. It features the River of Gold, divided into spaces by these blue lines. Each space is connected to 4 shore spaces, noted with these icons here. The shore spaces come in 6 region types. These types have a symbol which match the 6 region influence tracks. More on those shortly. There's also a score track along the edge of the board and a building row on the bottom right. Take the 6 region scoring tiles and give them a shuffle. Deal 1 to each of the 6 region influence tracks. Be sure each tile is flipped to the side of your player count, either 2-player or 3 or 4-player. Take the 3 Imperial Market tiles with these green market icons and randomly place them on the 3 Imperial Market shore spaces on the board. Shuffle the 6 starting building tiles and place 1 on each of the shore spaces marked with your player count, returning any unused tiles to the box. We're setting up for a 3-player game, so we'll place 3 starting buildings in these spaces here, marked with a 2 or 3-player count icon. Set the building board nearby and separate the building tiles by their era. Era 1, which has a single marking here, or Era 2, which has 2 markings. Shuffle these separately and deal a number of them onto the spaces of the building board depending on your player count. Consult this table on page 4 of the rules. Since we're playing with 3 players, we'll place 14 Era 1 tiles and 11 Era 2 tiles. Then, draw 4 tiles from the Era 1 stack to fill the building row on the board. Shuffle the 6 mastery cards and reveal 3 near the board, being sure to flip them to the side displaying the correct player count. Return the remaining 3 cards to the box. Then, create supplies of trade good tokens, which come in 3 types: silk, rice, and porcelain. Koku, the main currency of the game, which comes in denominations of 1 and 5, and the customer deck, shuffled and placed face down. Each player selects a clan and takes the matching clan board, clan royal ship, 2 clan standard ships which are placed on the 2 spaces of the river marked with a ship symbol, and 22 clan markers, 6 of which go on the 0 spaces of the 6 region tracks on the board, and 1 score marker set on the 0 space of the score track. Each player also takes 1 of each trade good, adding them to their clan board, 2 customer cards drawn into a personal hand, a Divine Favor Sun marker placed on the 2 space of their Divine Favor track, a Divine Favor Moon marker placed between the 3 and 4 spaces of the track. This marks the maximum amount of favor a player can have, which is 3 for now. A custom die featuring the 6 regions, 1 double-sided player aid card, and a number of koku based on their position in the turn order. Randomly select the first player and give them 7 koku. Turn order is clockwise and the second player takes 8 koku, third player takes 9, and if we had a 4th player, they would take 10. Each player then rolls their die and moves their first ship downriver by the number of river spaces marked on the die. They repeat the step for their second ship as well. Finally, each player rolls their die once, setting it near their board, and we're ready to begin the game. Gameplay occurs in turns, each divided into 4 easy phases: spin Divine Favor, take an action, claim masteries, and roll the die. First up, in the Spin Divine Favor phase, the active player may move their marker a number of spaces down, spending 1 Divine Favor per space. For each favor spent, they may modify their die result by 1. 1s can be modified to 6s and vice versa. Next, in the Take an Action step, the active player chooses from one of 3 possible actions: build a building, sail a ship, or deliver to a customer. I'll explain each of these in detail in a second, but let's finish the other 2 phases of the turn first. After completing their action, the player then claims masteries by adding a clan marker to the highest unclaimed victory point spot on a card, provided they fulfilled the requirements of the mastery. They can claim multiple mastery cards in one turn, but only once per card for the game. Then, in the roll the die phase, the player rolls their die in preparation for their next turn. And that's a whole turn! Like the river, it flows pretty fast. Okay, let's take a look at those actions, only one of which a player can do in their action phase. Build a building. The player selects an empty shore space matching their die result and pays the listed cost in koku. Their ship doesn't have to be near that space. They then choose any building from the building row and place it on that space. If they chose the last building tile in the row, they also gain 1 divine favor, raising their sun token 1 space. Buildings have a type. There's markets, shrines, manors, or ports, a building bonus, an owner reward on the flat end of the building, a visitor reward on the pointed end, and the era designation. After placing the buildings, the player sets one of their clan markers on the building's build bonus and gains influence in the region matching the shore space. They move their marker on the influence track and gain any rewards on spaces they pass or land on. After doing so, they slide the remaining tiles in the building row down and add a new tile from the building board, starting with any Era 1 tiles. Sail a ship. The player chooses one of their ships and moves it a number of spaces down the river equal to their roll result. They collect all the visitor rewards from the 4 connected shore spaces on their new space. Empty shore spaces provide 1 koku each. Players gain trade goods up to 6 of each type, influence in regions, and can even get some victory points. After collecting visitor rewards, the owners of any buildings on those 4 spaces gain the owner rewards. And that's the sail action. However, if during movement the ship reaches the end of the river, they completed their journey and will take any additional movement starting at the top of the river. But before they do, they'll follow 3 simple steps. They discard the building tile at the end of the building row, sliding the remaining tiles and refilling from the building board. The active player gains either 3 koku or 1 trade good of their choice, and they move their boat to the top of the river. Deliver to a customer. The active player selects a customer card from their hand, matching the region or number result on their die. Customer cards have a region and type, either artisan, monk, merchant, noble, or elder, an order request which lists the trade goods they need, and 2 or 3 abilities, either a deliver ability which triggers when it's played, an ongoing ability which is active for the rest of the game, or an in-game ability which scores a bonus during final scoring. The player returns the trade goods matching the customer's order request to the supply and sets the customer face up in their play area. They then gain any delivery effects immediately. Monks provide divine favor and increase a player's divine favor limit. They also allow a player to add a second marker onto a constructed building, gaining the owner rewards when it's activated. If they choose their own building, they'll gain double rewards. Merchants provide ongoing abilities and bonuses when completing a journey on the river, as well as in-game points. Nobles allow a player to replace one of their ships with a royal ship, providing a bonus unique ability for its movement, as well as in-game points. Artisans reduce the cost to build in their region and in-game points for leftover trade goods, and elders double the in-game points award for a player's placement on the region's influence track. And that's all the actions! After completing their 1 action, the player claims masteries and rolls their die to end their turn. Some other important mechanics of the game include free actions. At any time, a player can take the following free actions. Exchange any 2 of the same trade goods for 1 of any other trade good, or exchange 5 koku to gain 1 divine favor. The building board is the main game timer of River of Gold. After the turn when the Era 1 buildings are depleted, the Emperor Visit occurs. All players gain the owner rewards for all the buildings they own, as though a player has sailed a ship to each building. After all players have collected their rewards, continue gameplay with the next player. From then on, the building row is replenished with buildings from Era 2. Once the Era 2 deck is depleted, the game end is triggered. The active player will earn 5 victory points, and each other player will take one final turn before the final scoring begins. In final scoring, players gain points for those who were in first, second, and in some regions, third in influence in that region. Players with no influence will score a 0. In the case of a tie, add up the points for the tied positions and split them evenly between the tied players, rounded down. Gain points for the number of customers they delivered to, a table for which is provided on the game board, and in-game points for merchants, nobles, and artisans. The player with the most points wins. And that's the basics of River of Gold. I'm Becca Scott. This is Good Time Society, and you better come visit my buildings. I built them for you. You come in, I'll get you some silk, and you give me divine inspiration. It's good for both of us. You know what's also good for both of us and the YouTube algorithm? If you hit like on this video, the subscribe button, and then come on back for more great games and good times. Bye-bye.